this is one of the places for me where actually historical scholarship on the Bible enabled me to see the Bible in a whole new way, and I think offers us really kind of a stunning lens with which to look upon a text like Genesis 1. So just to give listeners context for a minute, in the ancient Near East, it was common to affirm that the king was an image of the god that that society worshipped. So the king of Babylonia is an image of the god that Babylonia worships. When you realize that, you then see that Genesis 1 does something truly stunning. It says, it is not the king who is an image of God. It is every last human being, regardless of gender, which Genesis 1 goes out of its way to say, without exception. So in other words, if a king is an image of God, if we're all images of God, then every last human being on the face of the earth, without exception, is royalty. Now imagine, first of all, the theological implications of that, but also the ethical and political implications of that, right? Every human being I encounter, whether they are, the King of England or a homeless man lying in his urine on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, they are both kings. They are royalty. In God's eyes, they are infinitely valuable. That's just kind of a surface reading, really, of Genesis 1, and it's breathtaking. And if we took it seriously, it would, in some fundamental way, reorient everything about our lives. I also would just mention another aspect of this that I find really very moving, is that if you read Genesis 1 carefully, there's a kind of beautiful, almost rhetorical move at the end of the chapter. So in Genesis 1, God doesn't just create things. God creates things in all their multiplicity and diversity, kind of this variegated creation. The Hebrew again and again uses the word limino, liminehem, right? Animals of every kind, birds of every kind, plants and trees of every kind. And then you get to the creation of the human, and you expect to be told, and God created the human being of every kind. And it never comes. As if to say, there are no kinds of human beings, not ultimately. There's only being created in the image of God. Now, Genesis will go on to defend diversity. I argued in my last book, The Heart of Torah, that the story of the Tower of Babel is actually about God's insistence on diversity rather than uniformity. But before we can defend diversity, the Bible seems to say, we first have to establish a shared baseline of shared humanity, which makes a kind of elemental mutual solidarity both possible and necessary.